Well, Labor will launch a review of the National Disability Insurance Scheme in a pledge to deliver better services to vulnerable Australians. Joining me now is the Shadow Minister for Government Services and the NDIS, Bill Shorten. Thanks so much for your time. So what will you do with the NDIS if you're in government?
The fact of the matter is trust is broken between people with disability and the government in terms of the administration of the National Disability Insurance Scheme. We will stop the unfair cuts to people's plans. We'll take the expensive government taxpayer-funded lawyers who fight with people on the scheme. What we'll do is have better plans, have more skilled staff. We will cut the red tape. We'll stop making filling in an NDIS form and dealing with the government a second full-time job for many exhausted carers.
Will an NDIS under Labor cost a bit more? Will you put billions more into it?
No, the money's there. We don't see the need to spend an extra dollar in terms of what's already been allocated. But what we will do is we're going to take the carpetbagging consultants out of the scheme. We'll crack down on a few of the cowboys in the unregistered area who are overcharging and underservicing people with disability. So we think we can save some dollars. But what we won't do is pick on kids with autism and say, I'm sorry, you only get a few hours a year of early childhood intervention. We won't tell people with serious psychosocial impairment that we can't find you a house and leave you wandering the streets. So what we will do is just run the scheme as it was always intended to. The problem with this government is their heart's not in it when they talk about the NDIS. There's never a sentence that they ever say in Canberra about the NDIS where the government coalition ministers don't complain about how expensive it is. The reality is they're just incompetent managers. You don't need more money, but the current government have been very poor managers of this scheme.
What do you make of the current news poll and the various polls about the voters' verdict on both the major parties at the moment? I mean, even looking at Labor and the primary vote of where it's at the moment, you couldn't quite get there.
Oh, listen, I don't think the polls should be taken as gospel. I mean, at the last election, the poll said Labor was odds on to win, so the polls don't always get it right. I think Anthony and the team, including myself, are outlining positive policies. We'll take action on climate. We want to be a government who makes things in Australia. And as we've announced today, we want to put back people with disability into the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
What do you do in the event of minority government? Do you think you will have to make some sacrifices to the Teal Independents and the Greens?
Oh, Laura, you're assuming the outcome of the election, and my advice to everyone would be don't assume the outcome of the election. Labor is in it to form a majority government. That's what we're doing every day. On one hand, we've got a very positive approach on the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The other hand, though, you've got to ask yourself, what's Scott Morrison done to deserve another 3 years? The vaccine rollout was too slow. We were missing when we had the bushfires, and even now the booster shots aren't getting out. I mean, this is a tired government. They don't like each other, and they've given up governing.
But why does Anthony Albanese deserve to be Prime Minister? It's been a week full of mistakes.
Listen, the last person who never made a mistake was put up on a cross 2,000 years ago. To err is human. No, I think Anthony's policies are the best policies for the nation. We want to make sure that we have secure jobs. We want to have a future made in Australia. We want to get the benefits of renewable energy to put downward pressure on energy prices. This is the story that Australia needs to hear. Real cheaper childcare, real policies on cost of living, things which help ordinary Australians get ahead as opposed to fall behind. And we want a decent safety net. That's why we're talking about reforming the National Disability Insurance Scheme, so it stops, cutting people from their plans, and it stops the anxiety which anyone who's got a plan feels that this government's going to come after them with an axe, which is a real clear and present anxiety for hundreds of thousands of our fellow Australians.
Yeah, it certainly is. Do you think and it's not equitable, of course, but do you think there would be a bit of anxiety about making Kevin Rudd the US ambassador as well?
I don't know how real that story was. He's a very qualified politician to represent Australia overseas, so I don't think there's anything about his merit which can be questioned. What I would put to you, though, is having a debate about who's going to get what job after an election presupposes Labor winning. And for me, the story's got to be, let's get to the winning line rather than worry about every position afterwards.
So do you think you can get there?
I think we can, yes. And
Okay.
I would say this to people with disability, voting for the current government, after all of what you've been through, expecting the current government to change its stripes after 10 years with the triumph of hope over experience. Labor wants to rebuild trust. We don't want you to be worried about, if you get a decent NDIS plan, losing it. And we want to take the red tape out of people's lives.
Bill Shorten, thank you for your time. And